We are good. Okay. Hey, hello everyone. It's Meet the Masters with both Masters Watson today. I'm joined by our friend Miguel Soto. How you doing, sir?
How's it going?
I'm great. Thanks for joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
How's it going over there in San Diego?
You know, got to complain about that sunshine. And I'm like,
yeah, right.
As you guys I see Aaron's wearing a sweater. It's like I just got shorts and a polo on.
This is even in the summer in the house.
That's a good point.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Universal clothing.
She's always cold. So how's things with the Dojang?
It's as good as it gets. We went back into purple, which is like our most restrictive tier, about a week and a half ago. So we've been online since whenever the quarantine started, was mid-March. Mm-hmm. And it's been tough. Been doing the class with my girlfriend Laura. We've been running both studios together, and it's great to have the team where we work things together. I'm sure you guys have the same thing where it's like, okay, one day we're doing this, one day you're doing that, and just kind of going back and forth. But as most people, we've lost, or I wouldn't say lost, but we had students that with their parents' schedule, working at home or being essential employees, they haven't been training online as much as they wanted to or at all. But as soon as we get back to in-person training, they'll be right back. It's just, they said they couldn't fit it into the schedule, because I didn't realize until I started doing work stuff and just meetings constantly at home. There's a thing called like Zoom exhaustion, where you're just like tired of it. And then sometimes I feel bad for some of our students where they're 5-6-year-olds and they're doing Zoom from like 8 a.m. to like 3 p.m. just constantly. And then they have our class afterwards. So we gotta tip our hats off to them, because sometimes when I'm on a Zoom call for like 2 hours or an hour and a half, I'm just like, oh, I'm done for the day. But yeah, we're just trying to make it work as best as possible.
Was there a moment where you were actually able to like train outside?
Yeah, we started once we finished the whole quarantine and got into the red tier, and when we actually got to be able to go outside in gyms, essentially, because martial arts schools are all jumbled together in that gym category. So once they got to do outdoor training, that's when we started doing our famous Saturday morning runs, where we do beach training and we run 3 to 4 miles on the beach. And those are the ones where us Region 20ers, we always post pictures in December where we're running on the beach, and then make sure that it gets back to our buddies like you guys back east. But yeah, then we've been doing our Saturday classes for a while now, and it's a lot tougher running 3-4 miles training with a mask on. I didn't realize it until I was like, I'm in decent shape. And then once I put that mask on, I was just like, oh damn, I feel like I haven't run in forever. But yeah, no, it's great to be back in person and just like as best as we can try to go over the details, where it's like, okay, and it all depends. And I'm sure you guys went through it too. Some people's camera quality isn't the best, or internet quality isn't the best, but we try to see those little details here and there. But then once we went back into in-person training on Saturdays, it was like, okay, cool. We can modify those little details that we're always good at while we're face-to-face.
Cool. Wow. Lots of people are saying hello. Let's see.
How's it going?
We got some of our UK fans, Natalie Walker and Lindsay Dudgeon, say hello. It's 37 degrees in Great Britain.
Oh, definitely not jealous. I would freeze in that temperature.
Laura says hi. Is she watching from the other room?
She's in the room. I told her, and we talked about, she was like, you're gonna be out here in the living room, and I was like, dude, like, you have no idea. I haven't been this nervous going into this kind of meeting, because I've seen the masters that you interviewed, and I'm like, oh crap! It felt like butterflies when you compete again. I was like, whoa, I feel like I'm about to compete. I was like kind of warming up, played loud music.
That's hilarious. Let's see who else. Francisco Soto, is that your dad?
Yeah, that's my dad now.
That's awesome. He says he's proud of you. Yoshi from Region 5. Oh my goodness, so many. Master Amarin, I haven't announced that one yet, but I'm actually doing one interview with Master Amarin next week.
Nice.
From South Africa, so excited about that. Bob Nelson says once pandemic is over, I'm going to join you in San Diego.
Oh, no, definitely.
Master Marsh says hello.
Hello, sir.
I got him scheduled too.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, when I heard that, I was like, oh, sweet.
Yeah, it should be good. Awesome. So let's get going. Since you're so nervous, we'll get things happening. Tell us how you got your start in the martial arts. So how did you get going training in classes?
It's funny enough. I always grew up watching Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles, and it's that kind of start where I was in the backyard. I was at that time, right before I was an only child. My sister was born when I was 7, right when I started essentially. And so I was in the backyard doing my own Power Ranger, Ninja Turtle moves, and my parents were like, we got to get that kid into something. So for my 7th birthday, they gave me a 1-month membership to start in Chula Vista with Master Durkle. And the way that we got into that was my godfather and my godbrother both trained in the association with Master Durkle, Master Purnell. So they were all the Joe and Joey Morales, and they've trained with all the masters from Region 20 for many, many years. So they suggested, hey, try out with Master Durkle. He's a great instructor, and a 1-month membership turned into like a lifetime of training. And it was just one of those things where I fell in love with it. And like, as Aaron knows, when we tested together, I always go hard. So I think lasted a week, maybe 2 weeks in the kids class. And I said, no, this isn't good enough for me. And ever since I was 7 years old, I was training with adults. And that's where I kind of get where I always push so hard and make sure that we feed off of each other, because I've never, I guess, was satisfied training with little kids. I always wanted to do more and more and more. Yeah, funny enough, Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles, and then a small world of having a godfather and godbrother who trained within the association, because if they trained somewhere else, I'd probably be on that track. But I'm grateful that they were a part of this greater association. And then, yeah, it's history from there, I guess you could say.
Nice. It's funny, talking to other masters, there's the generations. So like the generation before us was like Kung Fu. Mm-hmm. And then probably me would be more like Karate Kid and Ninja Turtles. So it's funny to we all have our motivations from different from different TV shows.
And they were like, okay, let's just take you out of this where you could possibly hurt yourself in the backyard to somewhere where, like, maybe if you learn a little bit of self-discipline and self-control, you might not hurt yourself later on.
Nice. So how long did you end up training with Master Durkle?
I don't remember how many years it was. I trained up to, I believe it was my brown belt, and then we transferred to Master Purnell because we moved, and it was a lot closer to us to travel because Master Durkle is down south, closer to the border, and then Master Purnell is more central. And then I was going to school less than a mile from Master Purnell's dojang, so we transferred and trained with Master Purnell from red belt on to when I started teaching on my own. So I think right when I got to Samdan and I turned 18, at that point, Master Patrick Marsh asked me to be an assistant instructor with him at UCSD. So I was training full-time with Master Purnell, but then also training up and being an assistant instructor with Master Marsh up at UCSD. So I think I was training about 6 days a week at that time. So it was just great. And that's where I fell in love with running at that point, because I was pretty quick, but on short, like 100-yard dash. But when he started doing 5-6 miles on his Saturday morning runs, I was like, I don't know if I can last. And I threw up. It's almost like our thing. Anybody who first joins us on a Saturday morning class, it's always a goal to have someone throw up, because it's just one of those things that we just push and push. And then our students really hated that goal. And I want to say about 80% of having people throw up on their first class. So I'm doing pretty well on that.
So I used to do kickboxing, and that would be the first, like the cardio kickboxing. You'd have these guys go hard in the first 20 minutes. They're outside throwing up.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, a couple more people saying hello. Claudia LS says, so proud of you. Claudia SG says, I admire you. You're the best.
Oh, thanks.
And Lars says your beach runs are brutal. So I've never gotten the chance to train with Master Durkle, but going through the Masters Clinic with Master Purnell, that guy's just like a ball of motivation and energy.
Oh yeah, no, he's crazy when it comes to when you see him in action. And then Master Durkle has always been when I was growing up a little bit quieter, and then when you just see him, it's just like a light switch. And then it was like a little bit before my time. I would hear all these free sparring stories of Master Durkle, and it would just be we all know Master Purnell, amazing fighter, right? First world grand champion. And Master Purnell would just talk in awe of Master Durkle, where you would have your guard up. And then back in the day, I was trying to emulate some of the old school fighters, and they would have that kind of lean back fight and trying to do that. And what I heard is that he would snake his leg through your guard and then smack you in the face, even though like it was just stuff like that. And then you're like, no, like it can't be Master Durkle. And then when you're training and then he actually turns on that switch, you're like, oh yeah, that's why he's Master Durkle, because he can turn it on like a light switch. But yeah, always amazing to train with him, and just endless knowledge just between all the upper echelon of the masters here in Region 20, and growing up with them it's been an incredible thing.
Lars says you still do that lean. We still got tons of people saying hello everyone. I don't know how you say it. Xavier from Puerto Rico. Xavier Garcia says hello. Master Chapel says hello from Great Britain. Zaberi from Region 8. And Angel also says hello. So
love Angel.
She's awesome. Talk about another ball of energy.
Definitely. When we would always we were going through the test together, we would just feed off of each other. And I'm like, all right. It's like, oh, you're going hard. Okay, I'll go a little harder. And then we just go off until somebody's like, all right, we're done.
That's awesome. So it's funny, you talked about those masters, and we haven't even talked about all the ones that you've worked with, because you've also got a chance. You talk about Master Patrick Marsh, but also Master Goodwin as well. You talk about her. You trained or taught for her, and then you took over one of her locations back in the day.
And it all started with her. Like I was, like I said, training with Master Purnell and teaching up at UCSD. And then one summer, I think it was in the transition when Master Goodwin was going to go in and start her new location up at the Ocean Air Rec Center. And she asked me if I wanted to come teach at the MBMA location, the private school location where we're currently still teaching. And over the summer, I was like, sure, why not? And then love the kids. And it was my first real interaction, because everything was always older kids. Master Purnell didn't have a Tiny Tiger Little Dragon program, and then definitely Master Marsh wasn't going to have a Tiny Tiger Little Dragon program. He was primarily like it was college or adults or older kids. And then so it was my first real interaction with 4 or 5 year olds, and I realized I had to change the way that I had to teach and kind of talk to them. And then once I did it, first couple of days, I'm like, oh, I really, really like this. And then she gave me the opportunity. She's like, I'm going to be venturing off in this. Would you like to continue with the school as a satellite, or you can take it off on your own and rename it and do the whole thing? And I was like, you know what? It's one of those things where it's like a door opened up, and you want to make sure that you fully take advantage of that door, because if I continued as a satellite, I wasn't sure how things were going to go in the future. So I was like, you know what, let me just take that leap of faith and just jump off and just start something, I guess, on my own. And it wasn't really like I started on my own. She was just amazing, where she gave me all the paperwork, the packets and all that stuff, how she was running it. So I can it was basically taking the template and then just rebranding it and making little modifications here and there. And that's how Mas Sang Soto started back in this is this would have, or it is our 10-year anniversary. We started back in 2010 officially, and then started off as a studio, and then building up our students, and then we eventually made it to, I started as a club and then built up to a studio. I think about, I want to say a year after we started as a club, we got our official status as a studio. But yeah, it was all thanks to her. Where getting that first opportunity, because she told me before, she gave other people the same option of like, you get to carry on, because they lived in Florida, they lived different places, and they start up clubs there, studios. And I remember one thing that kind of made me feel proud, and that she said, I gave so many people this opportunity, and you were like the only one who continued it on, because other people continued, and then it started, died off after so long. But 10 years strong, we're still going.
Well, happy 10 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's unfortunately in 2020, but
I know we had this whole huge bonfire beach picnic, because we did it for our 5-year. I was like, oh, let's go and do that again, and all the families were all excited. They're like, oh, we're gonna bring this. Of course, we started planning in February, and then this whole thing happened. So we'll have to find a way to do something next year, and kind of do an 11-year anniversary kind of party. And then you guys are always welcome to come out to San Diego and join.
You let us know.
I know. you know, I've wanted to come out there for a while now, so we're gonna have to make it happen.
I am, not definitely.
I talked to Master Marco earlier this year, and they were practicing or getting ready for a 30-year for Sweden, and he had to do the same thing. He had to push it back a little bit, but you know, that's what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Real quick, if anyone's watching and you have a question for Miguel, just shoot it in the comments. It's awesome that your dad is following along. He says, "Great job, son." So it's pretty awesome. So we're gonna go back. We'll go back a little bit. Like we said, we're just bouncing all over the place. You started when you were 7, and I'm assuming you've never taken a break as far as training. You've always been locked in since you started. So that means you went through high school and college. Did you have any breaks in that time, and that you remember?
Yeah, I think I went through, I'm trying to remember if it was towards the end of, or I think it was when I first started college. I think I took maybe a 3-month break, and just trying to jump into the whole new just college experience of just, okay, trying to branch out a little bit, and then see kind of as everyone tries to find who they are, right? And then after a while, I was like, you know what, I have to get back, because I know and we've all seen it, and I've seen it growing up with kids that some of my friends in the class, even through high school, like, oh, I'm gonna go do sports, and I'll be back, and then you take a little break for baseball, football, and this and that, and then the further along, however long that they take to come back, it's the harder for them to actually come back. So after 3 months, I was like starting to get into that point of like, oh, this is kind of nice, and I was like, you know what, no, I need to go back, because if I don't go back, it's just going to get harder and harder the further I extend it out. But that was really the only kind of break that I had. It was about, I want to say about 3 months. And then anytime like somebody would take a break and somebody would come back into the studio, and Master Fernando would be like, oh, what's your name? And he would kind of play that thing. I was like, oh, I kind of remember you and this and that, and just kind of give me a little bit of a hard time. But yeah, other than that, it was like, I knew I needed this, because going through college and doing computer engineering and doing all this tests for math and physics and this and that, I knew I needed kind of a stress reliever. And I knew that anytime, and I always, we still tell this to our students, where sometimes, yeah, you may not want to go to class, but just go anyways, because no matter how hard of a day, because even as kids, adults, we all feel this, where we're like, oh, we don't want to do anything. But then once we go to class, we train hard, we sweat and have fun. And then on the way home, we're like, I don't even remember what I was really like all worked up over. So I knew it was going to go hand in hand. And I just love training too. So I knew I couldn't stop.
That's awesome. Yeah, and a good note, like just keep training.
Yeah.
Even if you don't think you should or you want to, just do it. It'll make you feel better, especially this year.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
That's it. You didn't take breaks, not even when you were wearing a cast for tournaments.
Okay. So there was this story that, and it's kind of funny that he brought it up, and it related to one of the questions that you sent me about doing world championships. So we were doing just training at Master Purnell Studio, and we were doing bag work that night. And I just remember we were just going at it, and the two knuckles were just red and starting to kind of peel off a little bit. And then we were just fatigued, and then it was just that one bad hook, and I let it slip to these three fingers, and boom, boxer's fracture, broke both two bones right here. And what sucked was it was like a week or half a week before World Championship. So I went in and got my cast in, and the day before our flight, or the day of our flight, my parents were coming back home, and I was like, I gotta compete. And so what I did is we had these Home Depot 5-gallon, the orange buckets, and I took that, filled it up with water, and I stuck my cast in there with, and I let it soak for however long, and then I cut my cast off. And then as my parents opened up the door to the living room, my cast was like half cut off, and they just kind of just shook their head. Didn't even really say anything. Like they couldn't say anything. Like the cast was already half off, and I wasn't gonna get an appointment to get it recasted that same day as we were gonna leave. So they're like, just whatever, because I was. That's what I've done, where it's like if I'm broken, injured, we just keep going. And then so I just ended up taping it or wrapping it. And I remember in the middle of my dungum, I was just like, hand, just stay up and keep holding that knife because I don't want it to let go.
Okay, can I just say, as a medical professional, if you're out there watching, please
Yes.
not.
Yes, please.
Don't cut off.
Don't do that. And then Laura would say the other one was
She already has.
She already did.
Oh, she did? She did? I knew she was going to go in and say something.
Yeah, you ran 3 weeks after ACL surgery.
Yeah, I tore my ACL back in like say a December timeframe, and I got it replaced. I want to say like end of February, beginning of March, and then that was our red stripe test. And then I was like, all right, this is going to be my one dumb move. Like, I feel good and this and that. And then I tried not to let anybody know, but the people in the region knew. And then Master Kelly, she was like, no, this is not a smart idea. And then one of my favorite memories of that was Master I just came up to me and just said, you're dumb. Don't do it. It's like, and then I was like, yes, sir, yes, sir. And then I ended up doing it. I was hoping that we would do the whole, oh, is anybody injured? And I was like, I'll throw it up there. And then they didn't ask that during that test. So I was like, all right. So I was in the back. We were in the back. And then I think Master Elmore had a shoulder brace on that too for his master's test, because he had either injured his shoulder or was waiting for surgery or something like that. And I was like, yeah, I showed him my big long brace that had like the gears and the metal all the way from my like thigh to my ankle. I was like, yeah, I got my ACL replaced 3 weeks ago, and luckily it stayed intact.
I remember at that test, they actually did ask us if anybody was injured, but
oh, really?
Right before the gauntlet with the senior masters,
oh,
and they
okay.
only gave us like 5 seconds to react, and nobody had a chance to put their hand up. So then they picked us all to go over there and get tossed around. We didn't even get a chance to respond. So
yeah, okay, that's what it was. It was all a blur.
Yeah, we've all had those moments. I don't think I've had one that extreme. Like, how old were you when you cut the cast off?
I want to say I was still in high school, so I was maybe 16, 17. No. Yeah, no, I would have loved to do that at 12, but it was one of those things, like I didn't break a bone at all until a moment in time, and it's almost like it was just a door that opened, and then it ended up being my medical record was always like this thick because I kept breaking things. After that first one, it was just like a chain reaction.
So you talked about Worlds. When was the first time you got the chance to go to World Championships?
I want to say my first Worlds we wanted to go because I started in '93, so I wanted to, I think San Diego Worlds was '92. I think Orlando was '94, and I think at that time we didn't have enough money to travel all the way to Orlando, so we held off on that year. And then '96 was the great Las Vegas year, and that was my first Worlds, and it was great. We didn't have much back then, so we stayed in this like crappy motel and off the strip, going towards the convention center. And it was just I'm just grateful for my parents. Like, all right, you want to go? Let's just try to make it as best as possible, and let's just get there. And then I was so nervous competing for the first time. We were doing a demo with Master Purnell, and it was like the dorkiest outfits. Thinking back, it's almost like when you look back at like your '90s pictures, or you're like, we dressed like that. I remember we had like black tank tops, cheetah print pants, like the pajama pants, and then cheetah print bandana or headbands, and what is it? Yeah, and then after the demo, I went to put on my uniform, and I was going to compete the next day. And then I knew I was so nervous. And then I was like, Dad, I'm going to throw up. And I don't remember what I ate or anything. And then my dad takes me to the bathroom, and I'm in full uniform, so I didn't want to have anything. My dad grabbed me, held me over the bathroom or the toilet, and just let me go, and then wiped me up. And then it was hilarious because I remember we exited the stall, and there was a guy that was like, I heard what happened in there. Good job on keeping your uniform clean. And then I was like, thanks. And then put some mouthwash in, and then went out and competed. I don't even remember what I got. I have the plaques back at my parents' house, but it was just one of those things where it was like, it was so nerve-wracking competing for the first time, because I was just used to like local San Diego tournaments. And back then, Region 1, we were a little bit bigger because we were all California, Oregon, Washington, Alaska, Hawaii, and I think even Guam was all Region 1 back in the day, but nothing to the size of what Worlds was. But yeah, no, that was a great first Worlds.
I love, being a dad at this point. Your dad probably didn't even think twice about it. It was like, oh, I'm not
exactly.
It's all trimmed up, got the patches on. It's like, this kid, I brought him to Vegas for this.
Exactly. It's like, we spent all this money. You're gonna look good. You're gonna go out there and compete. I don't care if it's on me, whatever. Just you got to be good.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a true parent move.
And I'm sure you would do the same thing for Soto.
Absolutely,
oh, yeah, definitely.
Does he get those same nerves competing?
He does, but I guess it's different because as you guys know, like from my dad and my mom's perspective, they weren't in martial arts, so they didn't know, and they didn't know how to kind of address it. So they just went on a standard kind of parent, like, hey, you guys got this, you boom, 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 and this is you've been doing this for a long time, and just kind of breathe and relax. But then us being martial artists, but then even more important, masters, we've been trained for a long time. So when we talked to our kids, I was talking to Cynthia, I was like, you know what? I get this. This is how you're feeling. This is because I felt the same thing. And it almost helped him relax a little bit more, knowing that, oh, okay, we have the same feelings, because I'm sure your kids kind of think this of you. They look up and they've seen you training, competing, and doing all this stuff and being a master. So they put you up in this like super high pedestal and think that you've never gone through this, nerves and this and that. But then when you kind of break it down and we're like, no, we went through all these struggles, and some people had a little bit worse, some people had a little bit less, but we've all went through it. And so that's kind of helped him out, where I was kind of help him talk down from that nervousness to be able to compete a little bit better. But yeah, I think that helped him out.
Right. Bobby Nelson says 96 was his first Worlds too. He wonders if you guys competed against each other.
Yeah, I wonder. I always try to get back pictures, because I don't know what happened to our pictures. I'm sure it was just of the ring, but it's like probably in a shoebox somewhere that just has a whole bunch of pictures. And I just need to go over to my parents' house, because we've been doing that lately. It's just kind of going through old pictures of just and finding like pictures from my black belt test and just different things like that.
What was it like once you started to go consistently to Worlds to start seeing the same guys over and over again and compete like guys like Azil? And I'm sure there was obviously others like that. You get that bond, fighting.
Oh yeah.
Punching and kicking each other and competing.
No, it's always great to go in, and it's funny, sometimes I even forget who I fought, and until I see a picture, somebody tags me or somebody posts, I'm like, hey, I'm right there. But it's like one of those things, like it's the ultimate thing of, and it really was the beginning of building like brotherhood and sisterhood like outside of the region, because you guys know me, I love to talk and just be that person that none, right? And so I'd always try to talk to people, make friends and this and that, and it was just one of those things, like you really appreciated people's abilities, and it pushed you even more, like, oh wow, looking at different people compete, I'm just like, oh wow, that they're really amazing. Like I remember seeing Mo compete, because we all kind of competed together, and I'm just like, you go in with a slight ego, as humble as you try to be, you're like, okay, I'm decently good. Like you do well in your region, and then you go out to the world and you're still doing well, and then you see people like Mo and you're like, yeah, I need to step it up like 5 more notches. And then you go back, you got 2 years to train, and you're just pumping, and you're out there, and then you're like, whoa, I got better. You're like, oh crap, he got better too. And then it's just like, and it's all that motivation of just everybody pushes each other, because I'm sure people seeing me, other people, it's like we all get that motivation from each other. And when it comes to fighting, it's always like, oh, you got me this year, I'll get you next Worlds, and then you got to keep mental tallies of who won which match and this and that, and then but it's just nothing but love from us, and that's what makes us just so amazing. We're so competitive, but then at the end of the day, we're even during the match, so somebody gets a point, you're like, damn it, all right, I'll give you, that was a good one, and then you just get right back into it.
Absolutely. I think I shared this with you, but the first time before I even knew you, we were in a ring together, and I was sitting behind you, and I saw your logo, and I was like, oh man, it's a really cool logo. It's like the two kickers coming in towards each other with the different colored logos. And then it turned out you were sitting with Azil, and then the next year you guys went to Masters Clinic. I think it was like 2012.
Yeah, I think that's when we went.
Aaron came back and was telling me about all the guys, and I was like, yeah, I was in, I get to say, like, I was in the ring with those guys. They were awesome.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, and it's and when you told me that, I was like, no way, like you were sitting right behind me, and it's just one of those things where, like, at that time we weren't really talking. Right. I'm sure we said, hey, how's it going, and then stuff like that, but then it wasn't really, we weren't really that close. But then once we went to clinic, and then Aaron, and we built our relationship, and then it was just like, oh, Tim, and then it just shot off from there, and it's just one of those things where it's like you never know who's sitting behind you back in like 2010, and then look at us now, we're like all great friends, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to go back and think about it. Since I talked about the logo, what was obviously it's your initials, but what was the inspiration to go with Mas for your studio name?
I don't know. It was it was one of those things, like you have that blank piece of paper of trying to figure out what names, and I don't even remember what other potential names I was thinking of. But then once I was like, oh, go with my initials and kind of see how that played, and then it worked out well, because Mas in Spanish is more, and I was like, so we have that play on. So we created this like hashtag train Mas, so train more, and I was like, we can build up a lot of this, and so I was like, you know what, let's just run with it, and it took off. And then I had an idea of kind of what I wanted, because I wanted the logo to have the association's logo, because it was what I lived and breathed this. I want to kind of pay a little respect, where it's like, I want it to be in the center. And then, so I kind of had my idea, and I'm a horrible artist or whatever. So I kind of threw up a little kind of sketch. And then one of my buddies from high school that we still kept in contact, I was like, hey, he was doing like music producing, graphic design, and he moved to Japan and did that out there. I was like, I emailed him, I was like, hey, this is kind of the idea that I'm thinking. And I let him do whatever, just have fun with it, and just shoot me back anything, because I liked all his styles and things that he was doing. And then he worked on it for a couple weeks and then shot me back initial drafts. And I was like, that's it, the font, the everything, the flames on the kicks. And because I've always been a kicker, so it's like seeing the flames, it brings it in and ties it in all together. So the flames and my initials. So I was like, I was sold, and then that's where it took off from there.
That's awesome. Yoshioda was reading my mind. We were talking about worlds. He has a question. How was your first interaction with Grandmaster Shin? Any fond memories? I'm guessing would that have been the first time you met Grandmaster Shin, or at least saw him, would be at Worlds? Or
no? I think I remember him from our regional, because since I started in '93, I didn't go to my first Worlds until '96, and he came to our regionals. I want to say every year. So I did the whole getting his signature on our Dobok and this and that, and then so it was always just like, oh man, that's him. Like it's one of those things where you see like a celebrity on a picture somewhere on the wall, but then you've only seen him on the wall, and then when you see him, and the first thing that you notice is just his big smile, like that was his thing. And then with Kwanjam Shin, it's just he always remembered you, your name, family, this and that. No matter like if he sees you once a year, he can always pick up a conversation right as if it was just yesterday. But yeah, it was my first experience memory. It was just waiting in line with my medal or my trophy, or it was actually my first tournament was, I think it was that 93 or 94. It was up in San Bernardino, and we had these cool like green trophies that were kind of tall. And for me, it was like my first trophy kind of thing, where it was like I was excited and I was standing in line, and it had a little marble bottom, and then I just waiting there in line, and he got his signature, and I still have those back at my parents' house. And it's just one of those things, like that was my first interaction, just like being that like deer in the headlights, just like that's him. And then he signed my thing, and I went back, and I was like the happiest kid ever.
Oh,
that's awesome.
We have other questions in the crowd, so do you want to go back and grab? So there was a question earlier. I guess we kind of touched base on this, but since I was hoping someone would bring up Santi too, since your son also trains, and they said, what is it like to be a teacher and a father at the same time?
It's like, it's really hard and horrible at the same time, because it as much as you try to treat him or her, whoever, the same as everybody else, but I just can't. Like I always push him, and I guess it's a thing where I'm trying to prepare him, because we know that there's people that not that it's a negative thing, but it's like, hey, you're a master's kid. You gotta kind of live up to that, where it's like your dad did this and this and that. Because my sister went through the same thing. My sister trained for a while, and she went up to Samdan before she stopped. And it was the same thing. It was like, oh, you're Miguel's sister and this and that. So I guess that's what kind of stuck in my head. And I guess that's why I push him a little bit harder than, I wouldn't say a little bit, that's putting it kindly. I push him really hard, because I in a sense want to protect him from that, where it's like, I don't want it to be where it's like, oh, you're Master Miguel's son, this and that. And I was like, no, I don't want you to be Master Miguel's son. I want you to be Santi. I want you to be known for you. And I want you to be like, yeah, Master Miguel, I wish you were like that when you were 13 years old or this and that, because that's my goal, and is to make sure that he's better off than where I was when I was a kid. But yeah, it's just a matter of just constantly pushing. I know at times especially when class is done. I remember at UCSD, we would have class and it would just be me and him at the end. And we would just train an hour and a half after class. And it wasn't like simple training. It was like, no, boom, yelling, bop, bop, get this done. And it was just repetition. And he would end up in tears and I would feel bad, but it's because I know where he is or where he can, because I've seen it so many times and I'm like, it's just amazing. And then when I don't see that from him, like, dude, I know you can do this. And then when he does it, I'm like, that's it. And then my favorite moments out of those training sessions was when we would come back home and we would drive from like La Jolla back to the house, and we would just have just a heart to heart. I'm like, dude, and I'd tone myself right back down to the very bottom, and I'm like, you got this. And it's just a huge like motivational speech. I'm like, this is it, and this is why I'm doing it, and this and that. And then at the end, he's like, Dad, like I know and I get it. And then sometimes a couple days later, because it takes him some time to kind of process it all, and he's like, Dad, thanks for pushing me. Like, that's what I needed. And because I know I kind of fed off the same thing, where it's like I needed that like added pressure for me to kind of just like shoot off and do what I need to do. But yeah, it's tough, but it's extremely rewarding to see him shine on his own. And then other masters, like we would travel to Region 2 in Arizona, we would go to tournaments there, and then I would have Master Pacini, Master Lindsay, and they would come up and like, your son's really good. And I'm like, yeah, he did it on his own. They're like, we push, but that's him. That's his moment. It's not my moment, not anything. Let him shine on his own. And so it makes me super proud to be able to experience and share that in a way, instead of just kind of being hands off that some people may do, or some people are super hands on. I'm one of those super hands on. And then once it's their moment, I take my steps back and just let him experience and enjoy that moment.
Did he just test for black belt?
Yeah, he tested in this month for black belt at the beginning of the month, and we had our outdoor testing, and of course the sun was beating down. We decided to do the test. I think it was at like 11 or something like that, and we did it at a park, and I had my hat tipped off to him and everybody that tested, because they all did it in mask, and I did. I was one of the proctors along with Master Leslie, and we just kept going back and forth. And during the warm-ups, kicks, and this or that, whatever I was doing, I was like, oh man, I'm out of breath. I'm like, and you guys have to just keep going. I was like, damn. I was like, you guys are pumping through, because I think one of the things we would talk about in our regional meetings is like, do we want to do this online? Do we not want to do it, or social distancing, no free sparring, this and that? And we wanted to make sure that they had their black belt experience. And everybody has their black belt story when they first tested for black belt. And it's just like, you go back and relive that, and it's just the most amazing thing. And then they get the exact same thing, whether they did it online or in at a park, socially distanced with a mask on. They're going to be like, yeah, I was dying out there. I was dying in my living room, outside of my house, or whatever it is. And they get the same thing that we were, I guess, in a little bit of a fear that they would miss out on. But they were still able to have their own black belt story and moment, which was amazing to see everybody in the region receive that.
This week at the Dojo at Evolution, they had to start wearing masks during class. And last night it was like, I know it's tough sometimes, but I looked out and I was like, raise your hand if you tested for black belt this year in a mask. And 8 kids and adults raised their hand. It's like, if they can get through a 2-hour black belt test, you guys, you can do it. You can do a 45 to an hour long class.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely it's a story that they can share.
Yeah, definitely a story that we never thought we would have to do, even though we all wanted to be a ninja at one point in time. Basketball training, it seems ideal, but I never thought we would have been training with masks on every day.
Yeah, that's crazy. When we went up through, a couple of people said hello. Master Ramirez says hello. Carla says, nice interview. Greetings from Mexico. Carla Craviado.
Gracias.
Pam Russell says hello. Master Caluzzi says, when are you going to join the evolution? And that reminded me, you got a chance to come in and you taught a class for us last year in July.
That was
a class, and that was fun.
Yeah, no, it was amazing just to be a part of that, because I've seen so many pictures, videos online, and then I was like, it's going to be great to come out there and teach and just hang out with everybody and kind of give a little bit of my knowledge of fighting, this and that. And then it was amazing to see Master Mo. When I saw him there, I was like, what are you doing here? I was like, I had no idea. And he was like, something about a layover or whatever it was, or he was just happened to be in town. And then so having him there and then free sparring with everybody, it was just was an amazing moment. So I thank you guys for hosting me, and the same thing with Master Luzzi going in and just making me feel welcomed. And we're definitely going to have to, once this whole thing kind of blows over, we're going to be back there and training with you guys again. Yeah.
Definitely missing sparring right now.
Oh yeah, it's not the same though. We're sparring with the little kids online, and it's just like we end up just shadow sparring basically. But the kids love it. Like they're 5-6 years old, and they're fighting us, and we're doing all these things, and then afterwards we still bow and do our whole virtual 10s at the end of class. But yeah, being able to feel Tim kick you in the gut, and you're like, good one.
We talked a little bit about Grandmaster Shin. The last time we got a chance to see you was for Grandmaster Bodwin's funeral.
Mm-hmm.
Little did we know, when was that? End of January?
Yeah, I think end of January. Like
one of the last chances we'd be able to travel, normally. What influence did Grandmaster Bodwin have on you in his time as Grandmaster?
Yeah, he was just one of the nicest people ever. It was like same thing, kind of like with Kwanjin Shin. It was always that smile. You like, because you first see him afar. You're never like shaking hands and this, and like you see him and you just see nothing but just a smile on his face. And then when you actually get to know him a little bit better, like he's truly just cares about you, and there's anything that's going on in your life, even if it's outside of the martial arts, he'll sit down and just kind of talk with you, and just anything where one of the things I guess he kind of influenced on me, because I've always been strong-willed, this and that, and then sometimes I would say get angry and I would have to try to calm myself down, and seeing just how calm he was, I'm like, this is how, like, what's the saying, like you lead by example. And so he was leading, like, you don't have to always be this, be calm, cool, collective. And then I was like, okay, this is kind of where I need to start shifting gears and moving myself into where I need to find a newer, better version of myself. And we would have our talks as he would have his talks with everybody, and he would just make sure that we were all doing well. And then when seeing him train here, and he would give when he started coming to the regional tournaments here, and then we would have our clinics usually the morning after, and just seeing him do his stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is great. And then you pick up all those little pieces here and there and absorb what you can, and then seeing them at clinic, and it's just like, okay, your upper echelon, your leaders of the entire association are just fantastic martial artists, and even more, they're fantastic human beings. So it's like we've all talked about the yang, the balance, and then that's really what they demonstrate, is the balance of just the martial arts world, and then just being the personal world. That's how they live and breathe, and I think that's the best example is from Kwanjin Bodwin, Kwanjin Strong, Kwanjin Shin, is just the balance that they have is what I've been working towards it, and what I know a lot of martial artists and masters are working towards, that balance that they show.
Just talking about balance, has your focus shifted at all since you become a master instructor? So like going through clinic, before that you competed and do tournaments, and you still taught, but has your focus shifted at all, or do you feel like it's shifted throughout the years?
Yeah, it shifted because I found out that, yes, it's a lot harder to teach something that you do that sometimes you have no idea that you do. Because I realized when I was teaching with Master Marsh, and then I would do certain things, and he's like, "Oh, that was really good. Do that again." And then I would do it, and he's like, "You're doing this and this and this." And in my head, I'm like, "I'm just throwing a roundhouse kick." Like I had really no like mechanical understanding of what I was doing. And so once I got invited, and then starting to think, like, other than just teaching, and if somebody asks, "How do I do that?" And I'm like, I didn't really have a clear answer of, I knew how to teach certain things and kind of visualize some stuff, but it wasn't like exactly what I was doing. So I kind of took my education going through engineering, and I went in and took the time to kind of reverse engineer my techniques, my body, my this and that. And then I didn't want just to, somebody would ask, "Oh, how do you do this?" or "How does this work?" It just works. Like, that's not a proper answer. So I started going in and applying different physics equations and all of this stuff into what we do. And sometimes students always think I'm a little long-winded, but sometimes it's what you kind of need to hear is, you'd rather have a little bit more over explanation behind it to gain knowledge of what you're actually doing, versus, okay, cool, I do a low block, but why do we chamber our hand? Why do we twist our body? Why our feet are this way? What's the angle here? Why do we do this? And then so seeing that transition from myself being just a doer essentially, versus to someone who learned about themselves and now is being able to teach and demonstrate on a much higher knowledge. Because being a master, it's not just being a master of yourself. You want to be a master of what you do, and being a master of teaching the things that you can in a very, very high level. So I wanted to give my respect to everyone that has worn a master's belt before me or after me, that we're going to put in the work to make sure that we continue through and through, earn that rank, and make sure that we keep earning it as we put that belt on every single day. And so it took many, many years. And it's one of those things that is funny enough. I was going to volunteer in 2021 to teach a clinic, and I was going to put all these different equations and this and that, and trying to teach something at clinic. Hopefully, I might save it for when we're in person, because sometimes the physics equation and seeing all those little details, you might need to be in person. But it was a huge kind of eye opener for me to break down what I did, and then being able to break down what I did, I found out I can improve and tweak what I was actually doing, because, like I said, I didn't really have a knowledge of what I was doing. I would just do it because I was good at it. And now I was like, oh, I can make this and fine tune it, because that's what a master is. You take what you've done and you make it better by tweaking those little things, like Master Morello. And one of the things I always tell our students that I always remember, Master Morello said, "Oh, great, that looks great. Now we just got to buff it out. We got to shine it and make sure that it looks nice and smooth and polished." And that's what you're going to present yourself as.
So yeah, I can attest to what Master Soto just said. I had the very good fortune to go out and train in San Diego a few years ago now, maybe last year. I can't remember what it was.
A couple years ago.
A couple years ago. And I remember in the middle of class, I got to train at Mass Soto. In the middle of class, he busts out the equation for force, which I probably haven't heard since high school. I think it's like force is mass times velocity squared or something to that extent. I probably just butchered that. But anyway, I remember being like, oh my gosh, he just busted out physics in the middle of this Tung Sudo class. And all the students were like, yeah. So yeah, it's amazing how you're able to, combine your science background with your martial arts. So
it explains so much because like we learned when we're in like high school and middle school, oh, math and science, you're going to see it everywhere. And then when you're out there, you're like first looking, you're like, it's not out there. And then when I found out that it's actually linked to pretty much everything that we do in martial arts, I'm like, oh, this is it's amazing to see how it just kind of webs together.
Well, I can't wait to take that class.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Well, it's awesome. You start teaching sometimes, you're like, man, I need to shut up and stop talking. And then like a couple classes later, you see someone do it and it's like, they were actually listening. You're like,
no, that's exactly it. Like sometimes in my head, and I always, it's like Jiminy Cricket in my head. It's just like, shut up, just shut up. They heard it enough. Like you've been talking for like 10 minutes. And then like exactly like you said, like a week later or something like that, and somebody does it, even if it's like 2-3 students out of the entire class pick up a little something from there, it's like it was worth it in the end. And it's just like, it's like you just smile at the after class and you're like, yeah, that you just feel happy about it.
Well, apparently Master Marsh picked it up because he just corrected me. Force equals mass times acceleration. I was
going to yeah, that's one of our favorite equations that we have for the kids. And then sometimes when I would tell our parents and the adults that are in the class, I'm like, all right, we got to dust off that cobweb and bring that physics back, the high school physics.
Master Ramirez has an important question for you. He says, be serious, sir, please. For fast food, do you prefer tacos, pizza, or burgers?
Okay, so I got to go tacos because it's quick and easy. And then being in San Diego, we're a border town. And I know there's people out there in LA who might give me shade, but being closer to the border, the better the Mexican food on the US side. Mexico, yeah, hands down, it's all over there. But being closer to the border, we're fortunate enough to have more the better Mexican food. There's some good stuff in LA, but when you try it in LA versus down here in San Diego, you're like, okay, there's a clear difference. But yeah, so tacos are my go-to, but I'm not gonna hate on In-N-Out because In-N-Out is just kind of where it's at right now.
That is true, Master Ramirez. When I visited, he took me for tacos.
Yeah, you gotta go tacos. I go tacos. I love them all.
Yeah.
Master Marsh says all, obviously. So I'm not sure why, but when I go to like Worlds and things like that, somehow I get mistaken for Master Jason Church. But at least
I can see why.
I guess we're both pale white guys with reddish hair. But I don't share a name with him. So is it hard sharing a name with another Master Soto?
It's the story behind this. It's so amazing because having another Master Miguel, and no joke, my name is Miguel Angel Soto. He has the exact same name, like even middle name. And I was like, there can't be. And then, so the way that I found out that there was another Miguel Soto out there from Puerto Rico, and you'll find this funny. I got invited to the master's clinic a lot earlier than I thought I was going to. So Master Pernell calls me into the office, and I'm like, oh crap, what did I do wrong this time? And then he tells me, he's like, Miguel, sit down. And he tells me about the clinic and my invitation, and then he gives me the long spiel of, you go in there with you're an empty cup, you just shut up, you just ears open, mouth shut, and you just learn and listen. And we were going through this, and in my head, I'm like, I made it. It's like if you compare it to baseball players that are playing in AAA and making it to the show, like you're in the major leagues. That to me was like the Holy Grail. And then so I call my parents. I'm all excited. I tell them, and then I was like, oh, I gotta call my godfather, my godbrother, because of them, I made it to the association. I called them this and that, and they're all excited. We're so proud of you, this and that. And then I think 2 weeks later, Master Bernal calls me into the office again, and then he's like, Miguel, I got some interesting news. And so apparently there's another Miguel Soto that's a Samdan that lives and trains in Puerto Rico. And I was like, am I still invited? Or like, I didn't know. He was kind of like, are we both invited? He's like, this invitation was for him. And I'm like, I literally like felt like just so much sadness and just like, I wanted to cry. And then I was like, oh, sorry. It's like, it's okay, sir. I'll have my time. I'll have my time. And then the worst part was having to call my godparents and then call them that and let them know it wasn't me. And they're like, oh no, it's okay. It's okay. You'll get your time and this and that. Because I think at that time I think I got invited either a year or two later. I think that was like 2010 is when he got invited. And then so I was already a Samdan, I think, for like 11 years. Because I think when we got invited, I was a Samdan for 13 years. And then so a couple of years later, when I finally got it, I went in. I was like, Master Bernal, is this me? Is there another one out there? Because I don't want to go through this emotional roller coaster again of telling the world and all this stuff. So I was like, all right, San Diego, me, Don number. And I don't know why we didn't even look at the Don number. I just looked at the name. I was like, sweet, there can't be another Samdan Miguel A. Soto out there. And then so we when I went and I finally met him, I was like, I gotta find him. And then luckily that one was, I think, before that 2012 Worlds. And then so we started laughing. I told him all of this stuff, and we shared this great bond. And it was now we have that great connection that from a hilarious mistake by the association, and even after that, even with the studio, I would get his students testing paperwork. He would get my students testing paperwork. And so I think within the association, I somehow won, and I kept my middle initial. And then he kind of dropped, and he just goes by Miguel Soto. And then, so that's how kind of the association kind of kept track of just names. And then, of course, the complete opposite side of the world pretty much. And so yeah, it's interesting. And then we talked about he came up to me during that Worlds, and he's like, yeah, or a clinic, I think it was, and he looked at my uniform and he's like, that's a great name. It's like, you would have thought this was hilarious. That was exactly the name I was thinking for my studio, because if you look at all he was going to be Mas Hang Sado, and if you look at all the amazing Photoshop that he's done, he has the Mas with the dots and all that stuff for his photography. And I just thought it was like a small world, even smaller than that. We were thinking the same name. And luckily I went in and stamped that name as a studio name. And he went with a different name, but it was just one of those things. I was like, it was a complete small world.
That's crazy. Well, cool. Well, believe it or not, we're over an hour at this point.
Oh, man.
I want to thank you for joining us. It was a fun time. Is there anything else you wanna talk about before we finish up?
Yeah, I want to. This is a huge thank you to you, Tim. And I just want to give a quick shout out to my mom and my dad for everything that they've done for me. But and this is kind of goes in full circle of just what an amazing thing that you started doing these interviews. And it was one of those things where people found ways to kind of get us through the quarantine, this pandemic. And it was things that like you, Master Bonelli, doing the classes and you doing these interviews. And it was just another way that kind of gave us that big hook. And then seeing the lineup of all the masters that you've interviewed. And this is where I truly feel humbled to be where I would put myself at the bottom of that totem pole to everybody that you interviewed before, that as soon as you tagged me in that post, like we were making pizza for dinner, and then I get a call from my dad, and it's my mom crying from excitement because you were going to interview me. And it was one of those things where it was just, she felt so much, and in Spanish we have this word orgullo, proud, like just being proud of your child, of seeing them come up from the bottom and doing all this stuff for the years, and essentially being recognized, because in her words, she's like, you did it, like, because she saw the Master Claire interview and this and that, and she was like, there's so many great masters that you interview, and he's going to interview you, my son. So huge thank you to you for everything that you've done, because whether you believe it or not that these interviews may be simple, they mean the world to other people out there, that are not even just the people that you interview, people that are extended from that branch. So huge thank you to you, because you gave me a moment to make my parents proud. So thank you for that.
They should be proud. You're not only one of the most insanely talented martial artists that I've ever known, but one of the most genuine human beings. So they should be really proud.
Thank you.
Mom and Dad, be very proud.
Thank you for the, it was awesome that they were watching along and chimed in a couple times. It's pretty awesome.
Perfect.
Cool. Well, Zeal says nice haircut.
Yeah, thanks.
You get it for the interview?
Oh no, definitely. I was gonna post it on Instagram too. I was like, I gotta get my haircut and make sure I look good before my interview.
That's hilarious. Awesome, man. Well, again, thanks so much for joining us, and it's my pleasure. I enjoyed getting the time to talk to you, and hopefully sooner than later we'll get the chance to hang out in person. So
yeah, no, definitely. We definitely will make that happen. All right. Thank you to everybody who tuned in today also.
All right. Tong Su.
All right. Tong Su.
Bye, everyone.